Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. As you can see from the title, we are doing a double tiny house build. And I know as far as the game is concerned, they're not technically tiny houses since the tile count is like way too big, but you know, aesthetically, they're tiny houses. And there are going to be two of them, so like really, even if they were the right size, I think the tile count would be too big. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm doing this in my Total Drama Island save, so they're going to be for Duncan and Courtney, and they are each going to have their own individual space on the same lot. It just seemed like the best vibe for them. And as you can see, I do have a reference photo up on the screen like I've done in the past. I do only have the one reference photo for this particular build, so I did have to take some creative liberties as far as the window placement and the floor plan goes, but I don't know. I think it all worked out in the end. And as you can see, the windows that I used aren't entirely accurate to the reference photo, but they're kind of as close as I could get. The ones that I was initially planning on using were from the vampire pack, and I think they were closer to the shape of the ones in the reference photo, but they didn't have the right look. They looked too, I guess, Victorian to me and not log cabiny enough. So these romantic garden windows were the ones that I ended up going with in the end. And, you know, the shape isn't entirely accurate, but again, that log cabin vibe was more important to me than getting them exactly right. As far as the other windows went, I went with that cottage living window for the Eve window, and then for my like auxiliary windows that I was just sort of placing wherever I saw fit, I ended up going with this window from Get Together, which is like my favorite window in the whole game. I use it so often. I use it in like modern builds, I use it in more classic builds. I think it works for both, honestly, just with the way that the frame looks. I don't know. I use it a lot, so you know, this was no exception. And like I said, this is for both Duncan and Courtney, so the two houses are on the same lot and they're basically identical, but I did mirror them. And in this particular video, I did the exteriors of each of them and then the floor plan on the inside, and then I decorated Duncan's on the left. And then the next time I work on this lot, I'm going to do the inside of Courtney's on the right there, and all of the landscaping. And then once those things are done, once Courtney's half is decorated and the landscaping is taken care of, I'm going to post it to the gallery so that you guys can download it. And I don't have the For Rent pack, and I like conceived of this idea before the For Rent pack was even announced. But after building it, I realized like, oh, this would be like perfect if you wanted to do a residential rental situation with it, just because it's sort of like a duplex almost. And there you can see me placing some placeholder furniture just to get a feel for the layout. It does sort of get switched around after placing it originally because I totally forgot to do a bathroom, which I don't know, that feels so like obvious. Like, of course I need to place a bathroom, but it's been so long since I've built anything. I'm pretty sure this is the first build that I've done in like a year. And so I'm way out of practice. It was a fun build to do, and it was nice to do something sort of simple to kind of like get my feet wet again. But yeah, I totally forgot bathrooms. I did get them in there. I fit them in there eventually, but when I like laid out my placeholder furniture, I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something, and like, yeah, I was. Something kind of important too. And like I said, the one on the left is going to be for Duncan, so that's that blue one, and then the one on the right, the gray one, is going to be for Courtney. I probably would have picked a different exterior color for Duncan if I weren't trying to match the aesthetic photo that I had picked out, but that one was a blue cabin. We're doing a blue cabin. I don't have a siding color that's exactly like the one that's in the picture. That reference photo, it's sort of like an aqua color, and we have kind of an awkward oops, aqua colored siding in the game, but it's like vertical siding, not horizontal siding, and so I sort of just had to like make a compromise. And the inside isn't exactly as like maybe Duncan-y as some people might expect, because I know he's kind of a grungy guy, but I did want the house to look livable. I do plan on playing in this save at some point, and so I don't want to torture myself by playing in like a super dingy build. It sort of has a like bachelory kind of vibe. There are some grungy things about it, but it's for the most part, I think, sort of captures that more like artistic movie buff side of Duncan's personality, and less the like grungy, dirty criminal kind of vibe that he's got going on sometimes. And I did do a different wood on the exterior deck and the inside flooring. I almost did the same one, but I ended up going with one from Island Living that was just sort of similar. I did use what's it called? Horse Ranch. I always want to call it Ranch Living. I used that pack kind of extensively in this build just because I thought that the wood colors like really matched the reference photo as far as like the deck went. And then once I chose the color for the deck, I just sort of went with that. That was the shade of wood we were going with throughout the whole build, that kind of dark brown color. And inside of Duncan's house, I used a lot of green and I used a lot of black, and some gray, just sort of to like lighten it up in some places. I was kind of indecisive about what colors to use in his sort of kitchen nook area, but then this green and orange tile really spoke to me. It just seemed right. And then I painted the rest of the walls to match. And see what I mean with like, it's sort of Duncan-y with like the color scheme and everything, but it does end up being a lot neater maybe than you might think. Obviously, if you download it and if you download my Duncan sim, feel free to just like grunge it up, dirty it up, do however you please. And again, I did forget bathrooms. When I add them in, it ends up going in that far right corner. So I ended up scooting everything one tile forward, like closer to the front of the house. So I scooted the stairs, I scooted the front door, and that light that's in front of the door, just everything got scooted up one. And originally I thought I was going to be slick and do like a 2x2 bathroom, but there just was not enough space. So I ended up doing a 1x3 actually. And I think it worked out fine. Again, it's a tiny house, so I wasn't expecting to do anything super elaborate as far as the floor plan went anyway. I do usually like to do more, I guess, luxurious bathrooms in my builds, but this just wasn't this just wasn't the time. And I ended up doing two different sinks even though the bathroom was so small. So I know usually you do like a 1x3 bathroom and you don't include a bathroom sink, but I thought that it just made sense to include one anyway. You'll see what I mean. It's like just outside of the bathroom and like kind of in the kitchen. So it's almost like there's two kitchen sinks, but we can set sink types now, right? And so like, I don't know, it made sense to me. One of them I set as a bathroom sink and the other one I set as a kitchen sink, and I think it's gonna work. I think it'll work just fine. Obviously you don't need to have two separate sinks, but I don't know, I wanted to fill the space up a little bit more, and honestly I kind of wanted to take advantage of being able to set different sink types too. And here you can see me struggling with the bathroom because I initially wanted to put a sink in the bathroom itself, but I didn't want to place it with move objects on and then it not be functional, because I do play test every build that I make before I post it because I don't want anybody to have any routing issues or anything like that. So this tiny house is completely play tested. I made sure that you can, you know, move around and use all of the objects inside. But, you know, that bathroom, it was really giving me some trouble. And that's when I finally admitted defeat. And I was like, okay, I need to do a 1x3. So it's just sort of like a wet room kind of situation. And I ended up sticking the sink in that corner there by the window. And I actually think that it worked out pretty good. It might be kind of awkward looking, but I don't know. I like it. I think it's cute. I'm a really big tiny house fan. And I really am into like space maximalizing. I don't know if that's a word. I don't know if I could ever actually live in a tiny house because I have way too much stuff. But the idea of them is really appealing. And the idea of like having a really tiny, cozy space just seems really appealing to me. And I think that putting that sink in that corner really like conjured that like cozy vibe for me, because like, yeah, I'm utilizing as much space as possible. I will say I did sort of leave the walls kind of blank, and that wasn't really intentional. It was just sort of like I was kind of drawing a blank for what Duncan would even have on his walls. And so like it's maybe not as like space maximalized as it could be, but I did my best. And as far as things on the walls go, I know Duncan is a movie buff, and so it's kind of a lot of movie posters, and some like music themed posters as well. And then in that corner by the washer and dryer, I ended up doing a dining nook with a little pub table. Again, I kind of wanted to have sort of like a bachelory vibe to kind of go along with that log cabin kind of feel. So I ended up with that pub table because that seemed like a good compromise between the two aesthetics. And it does take up less floor space than, you know, a bigger traditional dining table would. And then as far as a living space goes, I sort of crammed everything in between the front wall and the stairs. It's very small, but I also think it works. It's cute. It's cozy. Again, I play tested it, and you're totally able to slide into that little nook and use the TV there. So it is usable even if it looks tight, I promise. And I ended up going with this couch from the Get Together pack. I don't think I've used this couch in a build before. I maybe have. I can't remember, but it to me just like it was perfect. Like that's it. It's the leather couch. It's the aesthetic of like, you know, a single guy living by himself, but it's got like the little throw blanket and everything. So it's like, oh, perfect log cabin vibes. I did put a guitar in. I couldn't remember if Duncan plays the guitar on the show or not. Like obviously I know Trent is like the guitar guy, right? But like I could have sworn Duncan also played. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. And I included the little like Alexa speaker there because I know he is a music guy, even if I couldn't remember if he plays the guitar or not. I put in a little bit of kitchen clutter, nothing crazy, just a little something to make the space feel lived in. And then in this entryway area, I just sort of did like a little coat and shoe rack clutter moment. I couldn't decide which side to put the shoe rack on at first, but we ended up going with the right side. And I ended up doing like a little end table on the other side with some clutter as well, just again to make the space feel lived in. I kind of had a hard time picking an end table at first, but I ended up going with this one from Jungle Adventure. It was kind of a challenge because I was trying to keep the wood colors consistent throughout the whole build, but it was more difficult than I anticipated because I didn't want to make everything just like black, you know. I wanted to have it be a little bit more, I guess, realistic in that sense, because, you know, realistically, unless you buy all of your furniture in one set, the wood colors aren't going to be exactly the same, you know what I mean? And I've kind of been feeling a more realistic vibe in my gameplay recently, so that's just sort of what I went with. And I am spoiled because in the last year that I haven't been posting because, you know, lots of stuff going on in my life, I still have been playing, and I have purchased a lot of packs in the last year, and so I have a lot more items in my catalog than I used to have. And you know, it's great and amazing, and I love that for myself, but it does mean that my builds can get a little bit crazy, so I do apologize for that if you do end up wanting to download this lot, if it seems like I've used a lot of packs, because I didn't really even pay attention to that. And oh yeah, I recently got cats and dogs, and so you'll see I used that railing for the stairs. And I'm pretty sure the stairs themselves, the swatch that I used is from Get Together, but that railing from cats and dogs just matched really well. I don't know. Again, I wanted to have all the woods be like similar but not exactly the same, so I don't know. I thought it looked nice. And it is one of the railings that has a fence that matches, so I was able to go around the top stair landing and have it actually match. And I did that in each of the tiny houses. There were some things that I kept the same across both of them. Things that, like, you know, if they were built by an actual contractor would be the same. So like the stairs, the railings, the overall layout is going to be the same. Like the kitchen corner and the bathroom corner are both going to be the same. And I'm probably going to do the bedroom in the loft area of Courtney's as well, just because I can't really think of another place to put it. If the Murphy beds worked like real Murphy beds, I could put it on the bottom, but they don't, so I can't. So yeah, hers will also probably be in the loft area. And I had a really hard time choosing a wall color for Duncan's bedroom because I didn't want to do just straight black. I didn't want the room to be that dark. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to be that cave like. I scrolled and scrolled and I was having such a hard time choosing, but I eventually went with a sort of dark gray, kind of like a charcoal color. And I think that really worked as sort of, a dark, more Duncan kind of aesthetic color, but, light enough that the room doesn't seem so cave-like. And I did struggle at first with coloring the walls in this room because, as you can see, I like accidentally did the roof walls too, but I noticed my mistake and I fixed it. And I ended up like scooting the roof over so that it wasn't quite as large. It didn't like actually go into the room like it was before. And then I fixed it on Courtney's too, so that future me didn't have to deal with that same problem again. Because like if I hadn't fixed it then, I know that I would have gone into Courtney's and been like, what is going on? Like, why isn't this working? And in Duncan's bedroom, most of the furniture is still that sort of dark brown wood color. I did want to go with more green accents in this room than I did downstairs, since the walls in this room are gray and not green. And as far as lighting goes, I had kind of a hard time choosing what lights to use, but I did end up going with these ceiling lights from Get Together. No, not Get Together, Growing Together. Did I say Get Together before when I was talking about the couch? I can't remember. Literally, why does The Sims keep naming packs with things that are so similar to each other? And when they don't, it's like for rent, where you say Sims 4 for rent, you say 4 twice. I don't know. The whole thing is ridiculous. I feel like they should work harder with their naming system, but it's fine. There are a lot of things that I feel like EA should work harder with this game. But you know what? That's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about this build. So I used those lights from Growing Together, and I think they look fine. I think the lamps are also from Growing Together as well. That pack has a lot of like older looking stuff in it, which obviously that's like the whole point, is like it's got like a generational vibe. And so there's a lot of like random little like lights and like clutter pieces that seem like things you would see in grandma's house, but for like a log cabin build, it's kind of perfect. And I went with that green rug. It's kind of loud, but I also feel like I'm able to tie it in with some of the other stuff that goes in that room. So apologies that it looks a little bit crazy. I promise I work it out. I had a hard time picking what wardrobe to use. Also, I couldn't decide between these two from the Horse Ranch pack, but I ended up going with this one without a mirror because I wanted to use a mirror like that was separate from that to sort of take up more of the floor space. And I went with this huge bookshelf because it's the same width of the stairs, and I thought that was going to be a good way to sort of break up the space since we don't have any walls up here. So I have a sort of like dressing area over here on the left, and then on the right I end up going with a reading nook, which perhaps is not the most Duncan of things to have, but this is Courtney's lot too, and I do kind of plan on having them do like a little thing when I play in this save, so she'll be in this space as well. And I went with this corner sofa, and there is a gap between the back of the sofa and the wall, and so I squeezed a lamp in there, which it might be clipping into the wall, but I don't really care. I think it looks cute, and it again matches the like reading nook kind of vibe. And I used this desk that we got from the Horse Ranch pack because, again, it matches the like crossbars on the desk, match the crossbars on the railing around the stairs, which I thought was cute. And like I said about the like rug looking really crazy, the sofa has those green pillows that are also really bright and vibrant. They're not quite the same shade, but the level of intensity is there. So, there's that. And this is what I mean about the walls being kind of Duncan-y. And I just put up a bunch of like movie posters. I put up those DJ posters. And, maybe that's a little bit too grungy for the vibe. Maybe that's a little bit too, I don't know, single guy living by himself for the like log cabin vibe, but I had to bring some Duncan characteristics into it. I did have a hard time deciding what to put on this wall, and again, I just went with this like random movie poster because it was the same size as the other one, and then I did that travel poster in the middle to sort of balance the space out. I had a hard time picking a rug to go with this particular sofa, but I ended up going with that round one. And then I remembered I needed to put a light switch up there, so I stuck a light switch up there as well. And that's it. Here are some screenshots of the whole thing. Obviously, it's not up to download yet because I don't have Courtney's finished, but it will be up shortly. Next week, I'm going to do a Create a Sim video, but the week after that is going to be the second half of this build, so stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a really fun time building it, so yeah, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Give me a like if you liked it. Follow me on all of my social media if you so choose. I say all as if I have more than just an Instagram. Follow me on my Instagram, I guess. Subscribe to me here, subscribe to me on my essay channel, and that's it. I will see you guys next week. Bye!